Good evening, Davis, and welcome to Jim's Table Topics. This is our October 2020 show. And today we're going to talk about votes, frauds, mobs, jobs, and civility. And along with typical fake news, good news, and life in general. Uh, just like to take a minute, like I said, we'll go over these things. And these topics are, weighing pretty heavy on my mind lately with things that are, going on in Danvers with the thin blue line flag and and all the rancor around it and the division and the hostilities of some things. So, at any rate, that weighs heavy on my heart, and I've been spending a lot of time trying to find out about all these issues here and there, and they all seem to be connected. So, we can't live in a bubble. Danvers is not its own little island out in the middle of nowhere where Danvers is part of Massachusetts. Massachusetts is part of the United States. United States part of the North America. North America is part of the globe. And the globe, the Earth, is part of the solar system. That's part of the galaxy. That's part of the intergalactic galaxy in the universe. So we're just a small microcosm of life here, but we still feel our pain and our joys. But that just kind of puts things into perspective. We need to look at the long range implications of the things we think, say, and do, as opposed to the current issues of the day. Don't make some things require snap decisions, life and death. Other things, we need to take a little bit more time to stop and think about what we're saying and doing and the decisions we make. And I guess that'll be evident as we get into the town meeting. I am a town meeting member also here in Danvers, and I'll be voting on that. But that's enough of that. So, again, as you know, I like to start off with the good news, and basically, there we are. Even though we got all this stuff going on, the good news shall prevail. We shall overcome. And I, being a Christian, I look at the things that go on, and I'm, my heart pains with the incivility and the rancor and the violence and the desolation of the cities that are going on right now. But so with that, let's talk about the good news before we get into the bad news. And again, the good news is always about, I like to think, faith, hope, and love. Those are the iconic rocks of the Christian faith. Faith, hope, and charity. Faith makes all things possible. Hope makes all things work, and love makes all things beautiful. And so that's where I'd like to. Those are the things that we need to focus on: faith, hope, and love. The good news. And let's see. So now on the good news front, I wanted to talk about. We are in an election season, so I just thought it'd be pretty interesting to talk about Moses and what was going on back in Exodus 18, verse 13 through like 20 or something. I'll read that. And Moses was having a discussion with his father-in-law, Jethro, and apparently he was kind of concerned about his workload. And so basically, here's what it says in Exodus and Moses and his workload. The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" Moses answered him, "Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me. I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and God's instructions. Moses' father-in-law replied, what are you doing? What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. So listen to me, and I will give you some advice. May God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to go, or the way they are to live, and how they are to behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, are trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and have them serve as judges for the people at all times. But have them bring very difficult cases to you. The simple ones they can decide for themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all of Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. Then Moses sent his father-in-law on his way, and Jethro returned to his own country. Those points to ponder, I don't know if we want to talk about those. Those were just something I had there I was going to talk about later. But basically, it's kind of interesting that laws, in our hearts, we all know what's right and wrong. We all know what we want people to do to us and how we want to be treated, and that's how other people want to be treated. You don't need a law to show that. We only need the law to show the people that don't follow their heart and their conscience and do good that, this is what's wrong. You need to follow these laws. And I just thought it was interesting that this, the whole concept of Exodus, which was way back, this is probably, 4,000 years ago, maybe, and the recorded history goes back 5,000 years. I think the Jewish calendar goes up to 5,700 and change now. I don't know what it is, but so the time of Exodus was pretty much in the after 1,000 years, maybe a little more, 4,000, But at any rate, it kind of clearly highlighted a form of government of tens and thousands and hundreds, just kind of like I talked about in the beginning of the show. Danvers, in a town, a city, county, state, and our federal leaders, and so it's kind of on a biblical proportion here. And you can take it even further. He says that we need to have judges for the 50s and 10,000, and then we need leaders too. And in the Bible, there's books about the kings, the Book of Kings, and it lists all the kings of Israel that came about, and all the trials and tribulations and suffering they did. Life was tough and life was hard. They had to make tough decisions. And so the Bible's pretty clear on how to set these things up. We have kings. That's kind of like our executive branches, right? Kings and presidents and the like. And there's the Book of Judges. It goes through all the judges in the Old Testament and how they had to execute justice in their realms and in their times. And so therefore there's no book of, and so the judges are like our judicial system. the judiciary, and then the prophets. They were the lawgivers. They were the ones that God said, hey, you guys are doing it all wrong. Listen to Moses. I'm going to tell him, and all the prophets, Isaiah. Listen to Isaiah. Listen to Amos. Listen to Daniel. All the prophets that came were saying, hey, people, we're not following God's law. This is the way it's got to be done. And people rebelled. There's always going to be people who want to follow the law and people who want to go against the law. And so it's, the Christian law is higher than man's law. So, God commands us to follow the laws as long as they don't violate God's laws. And so as a Christian, that's why I said, my heart breaks as I look around and see the utter chaos and fear and destruction that's going on before our eyes. And where are the leaders to resolve this? Well, I guess in the current day we'll get into it. So look at that's the good news. God loves us. He sent us people to try to point us in the way. We got to go to the way and learn and find the truth and act upon it. Okay, so that's our good news segment for today. Although we will close with the good news, and there will be good news sprinkled throughout the fake news, but we will get into. So I'm going to start talking about the debate and fact checking now. Okay, I got about 2 minutes. I got a bunch of videos today, so it's going to be less Jim and more video. Okay, because I can only say so much. I need to show you the other side. You hear something 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's other things that are out there. We got to break away from the echo chamber. So without further ado, what we're going to talk about is fact checking the Trump and Biden debate. We're not going to go into too great a detail, but needless to say, that there are, a lot of sticky points that people want to, hang on Donald Trump. And it's just one issue that we're going to focus on, but every issue follows this track. Okay, so we're going to just watch a video here. It's only 2.5 minutes, and it's all focusing about Donald Trump and the hate groups and white supremacists. Did or did he not? Has he or hasn't he denounced the white supremacists? Okay, I have hope, faith, and love that all the truth will come out. So without further ado, we're going to do the civility check, and we're going to go to the video. This is just a video I found on the web, so let's see go to the video, Dave.
Condemn white supremacy, the neo-Nazis. He hasn't condemned a darn thing.
You've got David Duke just joined, a bigot, a racist, a problem.
Would you repudiate David Duke?
Sure.
David Duke and robocalls are out again, the white supremacist movement supporting you. Do you have any words for that?
Well, I disavow.
David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow. Okay?
When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I've disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough.
So are you prepared right now to make a clear and unequivocal statement renouncing the support of all white supremacists?
Of course I am. Of course I am.
When Chris joined, we had a news conference, and they asked me the exact same question. I said, I disavow. I disavowed then. I disavowed today on ABC with George Stephanopoulos. I disavowed again.
David Duke is a bad person who I disavowed on numerous occasions over the years.
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke. Ultimately, he got to the Ku Klux Klan, which obviously I'm going to disavow.
I've rejected David Duke. I've rejected the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan.
David Duke is saying to his supporters and followers, vote for Donald Trump. White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it.
And you don't want the supporters?
No, I don't want anything.
What do you think of white supremacists, by the way?
I don't like any group of hate.
David Duke announced his Senate candidacy, claiming your agenda.
Are you ready before you ask the question?
Newt Gingrich said every Republican should repudiate this guy no matter what it takes.
And I do. Rebuked. Is that okay? Rebuked.
Rebuked.
Done.
Done.
Do you want white supremacists to vote for you?
No, I don't at all. Not at all.
His campaign is denouncing a show of support from the KKK's official newspaper, as in the Ku Klux Klan.
In the same New York Times interview, he denounced white supremacists. He denounced the neo-Nazis who support him.
Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. I spoke out forcefully against hatred, bigotry, and violence.
Okay, and welcome back. You know, I hope that you could see. Can you see how these, you know, these moderators and these debate formats and everything else lead to incivility, okay? And depending on where you get your reports and how you listen to follow all this stuff, you will see that the reporting is so distorted, and even, you know, Kamala Harris, in her debate against Joe Pence, oh no, Mike Pence, excuse me, said the same thing, that Donald Trump said that there's good people on both sides, insinuating and heavily insinuating that Donald Trump is a racist and he's siding and calling racists good people. When you can see by that tape, that's not true. That's not true. But when you hear that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from the fake news, it is, I mean, this is what I'm talking about here. The fake news, they help every socialist, Democrat, liberal socialist, Democrat, whatever you call it, they just help them. They say nothing bad and everything is great, and you can see it in the debates. I got to try to, people say I talk too fast, I get too emotional. I'm going to try to slow it down. But the fake news supports the lies. Did the moderator say, you know, Camilla, that's been debunked. It's been fact checked 2,500 times. It's a lie. No, that didn't happen. And issue by issue by issue by issue, it's the same story. It's whatever the democratic socialist media narrative is. That's the only thing that exists. We all got to get out of the echo chamber of the fake news, because, you know, people wonder why Donald Trump was so caustic at his debate. It's because he's constantly under attack. He's got the fake news lying about him day in and day out. It's not just one news outlet, it's all of them. And even Fox News has gone down the drain. They're not even conservative anymore. They have a few people left that they're trying to get out, like Tucker Carlson and Judge Janine and Steve Hilton and whoever, Hannity, and there's just a few left. It used to be, and so because George Soros apparently bought the news under some shell company, pick a name, any name, and go. You know, all roads lead to George Soros. All roads are going to lead to global communism, and that's what this is all about, people. So when you look at the debates, you gotta try to find some other way to get the information, because you're being lied to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I thought it was pretty interesting that I found I was just channel surfing and I came across History's Mysteries, and it was just the other 4 or 5 days ago, and it was a story about RCA, the big radio company, you know, the media company, RCA Victor, the corporation. Back in the 1930s, they had, you know, Germany had radios, but they were only tuned, and you could only get the German Nazi, which is the National Socialist Party, the Democratic Socialist Party. You could only get that one channel and their stories, and that's it. It was all propaganda. I didn't know all this. I mean, we all hear about propaganda, but we don't understand it. So that was on, the cable. I think it was on the what channel was that? The Travel Channel. The Travel Channel does a lot of extra things like that. They do histories, mysteries, because they're taking you to different places. This was Germany. So RCA Victor had a powerful radio, so they set it up in England, and then they broadcast the Allies' information into Germany so that they could get some of the truth, And so that's how it worked. But we're still free for now, but the cancel culture is coming. They're coming hard, and apparently they're in Danvers now, okay? So we have to pay attention to what's going on. We're not living in a vacuum here. This fake news, and I tell you right now, Black Lives Matters has been burning down the country since George Floyd was murdered by a bad cop. And justice has been served. The people who did that, the bad cops were arrested. That's justice. It shouldn't have happened, but it happened, and the bad guy has been arrested. He'll go through the court system. That's how we work it, and then he'll go to jail on the death penalty. I'm a Christian, and I read in the Bible where, the death penalty is biblically. I say when people do things like this, they should be the death penalty. But that's another issue for another day. But because the Bible clearly says that the civil governments are authorized by God and directed by God, and good, bad, or indifferent, the civil governments don't wield the sword of the Lord in vain, okay? And it is to reward the righteous and punish the wicked. Right about now, we are really, here comes the good news infusion. This is of biblical proportions. In the end times, they will call good evil and evil good. And that's what the fake news is doing, okay? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's just not the fake news. It is the educational system. It is Hollywood and all the entertainment and movies we see. We have all these talking heads from media to Hollywood, the teachers. I mean, if they taught history about the Bolshevik Revolution, then you would understand that after the Bolshevik Revolution, which was in the early 1900s, in Russia, they had parties, a socialist party just like this, and they took over. And when it was all over and the revolution was done, they executed all the professors and teachers because they didn't want them to untrain and unbrainwash the people from the propaganda they made them teach. Okay, so again, CNN is telling you, it's mostly peaceful process. That's mostly peaceful, and these people are the worst haters in the world. You'll see a video that will draw a contrast between the peaceful protesters and the constitutionalist conservatives that are trying to make things right. And then the news, day after day, time after time, is always positive for the Joe Biden and the Democrats, and it's always negative for President Trump. As you can see, there's a little list here. I know it's kind of fuzzy. I can't even read it either. But I have the original here. So basically, this little picture on the newspaper here, the Boston Broadside, which you can get in Danvers. Mobs for Joe Biden, the ones that are burning down the cities and towns and coming to a town near you. And he supports that because under his little list, he's going to send all our jobs to China because that's what he said he's going to do. He's going to defund the police because that's what they want. And he supports the so-called peaceful riots, as we just looked at. And he's against the Second Amendment, which that's another story for another day. And the same with President Trump here. He's for jobs. He wants the jobs. He loves this country. So with Biden, it's jobs to China. Trump, it's love the country. It's defund the police for the mobs, and for the jobs, it's support our first responders, so-called peaceful protests on the mob side, and jobs is love of law and order. And then he's anti-Second Amendment, and Donald Trump is pro-Second Amendment. None of these things are really radical. This is just life in general. I mean, and this is what we need to be focusing on. So I just want to say that all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Take an issue, any issue. I don't care what it is. Just on CNN and all the narrative news that just follow the narrative. It's anything that's liberal, socialist is very good. This is good. You know, this is good. This is good. Mostly peaceful protests. This is okay. Just a few bad people. Just a few bad people. Oh, Trump said there's a few bad people, but oh no, they can't. They never. And on the Trump side and the conservative constitutional side, we're haters. There's never anything positive said about these people, about Donald Trump. Never. And then you wonder. And just so that you know, if you actually go back and look at some of the analysis of the debate of Trump and Joe Biden, there was a great movie with what's his name, Sylvester Stallone, called First Blood. Well, who drew First Blood at the debate? It wasn't Trump. It was Joe Biden. Snipped him. Okay, you can go back and watch it in slow motion. You clown, shut up, or whatever he said. He drew the first blood. Okay, and so I don't know. I've watched the tapes. Well, back in the day, I watched Joe Biden debate Sarah Palin and you know, he was brutal, interrupt, insinuate, insult. It was brutal. He did the same thing to Paul Ryan when they were debating vice presidents. So Donald Trump knows what Joe Biden's like. We all know what Joe, but apparently you don't, because you only listen to this. This is all you hear about. Joe, oh, poor Joe. Joe's a great guy. Joe, oh yeah, Joe, he's a great guy. He sold us down the river with NAFTA, GATT, and all those trade agreements that sent all our jobs overseas and out of here. He's been down there for 27 years, so he does, and he's got a lot of help from his friends, because all his friends are just streaming and teaming up to beat President Trump. And oh, by the way, not only is he fighting media and Hollywood and the educational system, he's got to fight all the deep state operatives that George Soros put in there. And it's just, you know, dirty cop after dirty cop. Eventually, it's all going to come out. But it won't if Joe Biden gets it. See, that's why if Hillary Clinton got elected as president, the Constitution would be gone by now after 4 years. But okay, look at. We're going to go to some videos that show this. Okay, we're going to talk about PragerU. They got a great commercial. We need to go and see. This is the other side of the story, folks. So I want you to watch this. There's a great commercial that they have. I found on, actually I saw it on Fox, on the Fox channel. And I got it off the web. Watch this commercial, and then there's a 5-minute video after that. Okay, which is going to focus on voter fraud, which will be our next topic. We're going to go into voter fraud. But just to set the stage, PragerU is just another victim of high-tech, what do you call it, ghosting on Facebook and everything else. They've been browbeat, and they get the same treatment that Trump does and everyone else. So without further ado, David, let's go to the tape.
I'm proud to be American.
I'm proud to be American. Less than 4 years ago, I was embarrassed to call myself an American.
I believed the police would harass me just because of the color of my skin.
I used to be an atheist.
A PragerU video opened my mind. I began binge-watching 5-minute videos, and I realized I had been manipulated by the left.
I watched the Candace Owens show and stopped thinking of myself as a victim.
Dennis Prager's videos changed my mind about God.
PragerU is changing millions of minds by reaching young people like me on the internet.
In 2020 alone, we have reached over 1 billion views, with 60% of our audience under the age of 34 and over 70% of minds changed.
The left is still reaching more young people. We need your help now.
You can help us make more pro-American content and change the minds of young people like us. Please support us with your tax-deductible donation at PragerU.com.
While the major media fixates on the influence of foreign powers on American elections, a much more serious attack has been taking place right under our noses. Good old-fashioned, homegrown voter fraud. Let's look at 3 of the worst offenses. Example number 1, bloated voter rolls. In 244 counties across the United States, there are more registered voters than there are people legally eligible to vote. 29 states have counties with more registered voters than legal residents, and 8 states have more registered voters than actual voting age people. When the Supreme Court upheld Ohio's efforts to clean up its own voter rolls in 2018, the majority opinion cited Pew Center statistics. 24 million voter registrations in the United States are either invalid or significantly inaccurate, and nearly 3 million people are believed to be registered to vote in more than one state. These numbers have a shocking implication. It's very easy to exploit our voting system. During an undercover investigation, New York City detectives made 63 attempts to cast illegal ballots based on flawed voter rolls. They were successful 61 times. Similar investigations in other cities and other states produced the same dismal results. But phony voters on the rolls is just one threat to election integrity. Here's example number 2, ballot harvesting. In 2016, the state of California, one of the states with more registered voters than citizens, became the first state to legalize the practice of ballot solicitation. That is, the collection and delivery of ballots by third parties. With no trace of irony, this is called ballot harvesting. It works like this. In California, organizations with a clear political agenda are legally permitted to go to a location, say a nursing home or a church, and collect, literally harvest, ballots. The third party then transports these ballots to a polling place or an election office. This raises an obvious question. Once this third party collects the ballots, what's to stop them from changing them, or from just throwing out the ones they don't like? A guilty conscience? How do we know ballot harvesters from Democratic organizations aren't destroying Republican ballots? Or Republican harvesters aren't destroying Democratic ballots? We don't. We have no way of knowing. Let's look at one specific example. On election night in 2018, California's Central Valley Republican Congressman David Valadao held a 5,000 vote lead over his challenger, Democrat T.J. Cox. The margin was wide enough that the networks even called the race for Valadao, the Republican incumbent. But wait, there were late ballots still to be delivered by the third-party vote harvesters. When those votes came in, they broke so overwhelmingly for Cox, in a historically conservative district no less, that Valadao's 5,000 vote victory became an 862 vote loss. Maybe that was just a coincidence. Or maybe not. In the first major election after ballot harvesting was allowed in California, Democrats won every single congressional seat in Orange County, which had been a Republican stronghold for decades. A year earlier, no sober person would have thought that possible. Voter corruption example number 3, voting by non-citizens. Should you have to be a citizen to vote? Silly question, right? It was once, not anymore. According to a recent poll, more than half of Democrats, 53%, support granting illegal immigrants the right to vote. Forget the legal ones. Democratic National Chair Tom Perez, before working for the Obama administration, worked for a group called Casa de Maryland, which has been a longtime advocate for expanding non-citizen voting rights. Yes, it's true that federal law prohibits non-citizens from voting in federal elections, but 11 states, all run by Democrats, currently allow non-citizen voting of some kind. Cities such as Chicago and San Francisco, for example, allow non-citizens to vote in certain citywide elections. Why? Because for progressives, demography is destiny, and many see illegal immigrants as future voters. So there you have it, 3 different ways to tamper with the vote: bloated voter rolls, ballot harvesting, voting by non-citizens. These are just 3 ways in which the left creates a clear advantage for itself on Election Day. The major media will tell you that corrupt voting practices either don't exist or are so minor they don't matter. But to believe that, you have to believe 2 things: that voter registration rolls are accurate and secure from fraudulent registrations, and that no one is trying to manipulate the results for political purposes. Those are 2 very big leaps. Maybe you want to make those leaps because you like the results they produce. But if you care about free and fair elections, no matter which party you belong to, you need to pay attention. Or pretty soon, free and fair elections will be a quaint relic of the past. No foreign government can undermine our democracy, but Americans can. And some do. I'm Eric Eggers, investigative reporter for the Government Accountability Institute for Prager University.
This video was made possible through a generous donation from Bob and Ruth Reingold.
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Okay, folks, welcome back. You know, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. I hope that you can see that, you know, it's not what it's not how CNN purports it. It's everything. There's another side to the story. There's always another side to the story, and so we need to look at these things. Now we've got these kids that you saw in the commercial. They have been, you know, pretty much brainwashed, and they go, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? So we have the ability to look outside the box and see what's going on, and these kids have. And so there's a term for that. They call it a red pill moment. We used to call it an epiphany. It's kind of like I like to you know, compare it to like they used to have these little cartoons, and within the cartoon it was a picture, and then inside the picture there was little things hidden in the picture, like there would be a man laying down in the tree, but you know, unless you looked really close, you couldn't see it. It just looked like a tree. But inside and then some of the leaves had little faces, looked like little kitties. So if you just walk by, you just say, that's a tree. But when you look at it close, you go, oh, there's all these pictures hidden in a picture. So once you see it, see, the thing is, once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? So now when you look at the tree, you go, oh, there's a man there, there's a kitty here, and there's you know, there's a car up here, and there's a baseball glove over here, and so that's what the fake news is. The fake news is, oh yeah, that's right. Love is right here. All these beautiful burning buildings is love, and all these this is hate. Okay, got it. But wait a minute. You gotta look closer, people. You gotta look closer. That's all I'm saying. So these kids know, and they had their red pill moment. They've had their epiphany, and these 5-minute videos, like that one on the not fake voters, voter fraud, because CNN doesn't report about it. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of cases within the last 10 years, 15 years of voter fraud, serious voter fraud. In fact, someone who's working on the Biden campaign in Texas was funny. His name is Dallas. I don't know if it's first name or last name. I can't remember all this stuff. You got to go on the web. Just Google voter fraud, real cases, and go look for yourself. All over the place, hundreds. Do you know? And so he just got arrested, literally arrested within the last month or so, because back in some election in 2018 or 2016, he falsified a whole bunch of ballots. Or whatever he did, it happened. And did you hear it on the news? Crickets. They don't report that. So it didn't happen, right, folks? It didn't. Yeah, it's there. It's hidden in the trees. You got to look for it. You got to break out of the cycle. You got to break out of the cycle. There's other stories, which, you know, and I think it's Minnesota. I think that's where Senator Al Franken is from. Okay, that's a state where he won against some Republican candidate, and basically they were so close they had to recount the votes. And by the time they recounted the votes so that Al Franken won, there were more votes than registered voters in the district. Okay. So what does that tell you? That's a red flag. There's something wrong here, people. There's something wrong with the whole system where we're sending out millions and millions of ballots to people who haven't even been alive for 10 years because the voter rolls are so out of date. And when all we needed to do, I had this discussion with a couple of people while I was holding signs at the primary election day. I said, you know, the issues, you know, let the people vote, but, you know, when it comes to these ballots, I said, you know, we already got a system called, you know, what do you call it? Mail-in. It's not mail-in voting. It's absentee ballots. So you can get an absentee ballot. See, the difference between mail-in vote and absentee ballot, you have to ask. You have to say, "Hey, I'm a registered voter. I won't be around. Send me ballot." And so the person I was talking to said, "Yeah, but there's no excuse for absentee ballot that meets what's going on." I said, "Well, we're making laws for everything else, for masks and everything. Why don't we just say, if you don't want COVID-19, I'm not going out. Send me my ballot." Instead of sending out millions, you can just send out to the ones who want it. We're not suppressing the vote here. I don't want people, "Oh, gee, what's going on? Oh, what am I voting for?" They don't even know who's on the ballot. They have to be told. Most people, when you see those people on the street interviews, but there is voter fraud. And it always seems to be. I mean, it's funny how every ballot they find, it's 90% Democrat and 10% Republican, even if they let you. So, it's real, and because CNN and everyone don't report it, apparently it didn't happen. So, and again, like I said, we've got PragerU and a whole bunch of people are being blackballed or being ghosted is the new term, ghosted, by Facebook and everyone, because basically here it says, literally nothing has convinced me. This is Molly Hemingway. She's a talking head on Fox News. Nothing has convinced me of the threat to the election integrity posed by mail-in ballots so much as Twitter and other media furiously insisting you can't talk about it at all and working so hard to suppress the discussion of its risks. The risks are completely obvious, and they make Donald Trump sound like he's a raving lunatic, but that's what's going on. So, quite frankly, people, I got to take a deep breath. Okay, I'm going to have to be one with myself. Well, I'm going to slow it down. I'm almost out of time. I got 2 minutes left, and then we're going to go to the hat trick of videos. But, okay, so you can see this. If we can go to the store, we're doing a bunch of things now, put a mask on, we can go there on election day. And if you're really afraid, get yourself an absentee ballot. Call up the town hall, say, "Hey, this is me, I live here," or fill out the form, whatever you do, it's online. There's 100 ways to do it, and get it. We don't need to send millions upon millions. You know how much money that's costing? And the mail people are throwing them out. They're finding it all over the place, but they're not reporting it, so apparently it didn't happen. So it's not happening, okay? And in breaking news, the people who said Trump would destroy America are destroying America. They are the ones that are doing it now. They are the ones that it's happening right before our very eyes, people. They're lying to us. They're lying to us. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What more can I say? It's mobs or jobs. Take your pick, mobs or jobs. I have a whole bunch of things here I didn't even get into. Brandon Straka started his little hashtag walk away. He was a gay Democrat who said, "You guys are crazy." Go, hashtag walk away, find out about it. And Candace Owens, she started a group called Blexit. It's Black Exit. She's saying, "Hey, people, look at what the Democrats are doing to us. We got to get out of here. Exit, stage left." Okay, Snagglepuss, we're gone. And here, we, the American people, are not each other's enemies. We're not. We love each other. I love you. The enemies are those people behind the curtain jerking everyone's chains and trying to divide us up by age, by race, by income. Okay? So that's Ben Carson. And that's where we are, people. That's where we are. We've gotta stick to faith, hope, and love and not get it trapped in this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, here we go. We're going to go to the tape, David, and just let me tell people, these are 3 5-minute videos from PragerU, just like those kids in the commercial we're talking about. I hope you listen and learn and let me know what happens. Call the station, let them know what you think of these videos. And after these 3 videos, I'll come back in for a quick good night. Okay, David, to the tape. Thanks.
When I got out of bed the morning of May 31st, 2020, after a sleepless night, I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what or what I would say. I saw the protests and the riots. I'd heard all the accusations about racism, racial injustice, and police brutality. I was horrified by what happened to Mr. George Floyd, but I was also horrified about what was happening to my adopted country, my beloved America. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't keep it inside. So I went to one of these protests and I did the most American thing I could think of. I told the protesters exactly what I thought. I admit it, I wasn't very diplomatic. Maybe that's why my remarks went viral. You can find them easily on YouTube. Many people admired me for what I said. Many hated me. I don't care either way. I didn't do this for me. I did it for America, the greatest country in the world. And I know what I'm talking about. I was born in Cameroon, a country in West Africa. My family lived day to day, simply trying to survive. When I hear people talk about corruption and civil rights abuses here in the US, I shake my head. They never lived in Cameroon, or anywhere within 1,000 miles of Cameroon. That's for sure. I came to the United States for what I could never have in my native land. Freedom and happiness. The opportunity to get a good education, to earn a good living, to build a good life for myself. And that's exactly what I've done. That's what America has allowed me to do. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Since coming to the United States, I have trained in nursing and worked as a visiting nurse assistant. Recently, I received my master's in healthcare administration, and I am now working as a healthcare executive. My career ambition is to close the gap in healthcare outcomes and design new and better strategies to ensure that underserved populations get the healthcare services they need. I also serve as a reservist in the United States Air Force. And yes, I look forward to getting married and starting a family. My life is grounded in a simple truth. There's no better place to live for anyone of any race than America. And everybody outside of America knows it. That's why they line up, like I did, at US embassies around the world, hoping for a chance to come here to live and work. This is truly the line of opportunity. So, don't go around trashing it. I don't care where you come from, or what your complaint is, or what your skin color is. I'm not having it. And that brings me back to May 31st, at that park in Washington, D.C. Mr. Floyd should not have died as he did. But make no mistakes, Black Lives Matter and their allies are using George Floyd's death to split Americans apart at the very moment we should be coming together. They're striking at the heart of this country, twisting the knife of white guilt with one hand and black resentment with the other. These protests are not about empowering black people. They are about disempowering black people. Because when the fire stops burning, all that remains is hopelessness, anger, and shame. That's not empowerment. That's oppression. Look at the innocent victims, the business owners, many of them black, who've lost their lives' work to looting and arson. What are they supposed to do now? Who cleans up the graffiti and the shattered glass? Who rebuilds? Who, after seeing the dreams go up in smoke, even wants to? Every week in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., black criminals kill black men, women, and children. Children! Do you know the name of a single one of them? Why don't their lives matter? Where are the protests for them? Why do we only get angry when a white police officer kills a black man, while dozens of our brothers and sisters are mowed down every weekend in our neighborhoods? Black Lives Matter and its supporters, with their bottomless obsession with racism, pretend to be leading us to a better future, but in fact, they're setting us into a spiral of self-destruction. It was an intense struggle for me to get to America. I love it too much to stand aside and watch it be torn apart. Stand with me. I'm not oppressed. I'm not a victim. I am a free American. I'm Nestra Yumga for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Neil Golightly had a long and distinguished career as an executive at Boeing, until he didn't. Gary Girls had a long and distinguished career as a curator of painting and sculpture at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, until he didn't. James Bennett had a long and distinguished career as an editor at the New York Times, until he didn't. All three were canceled. Their careers, their life's work ended in a virtual instant. Golightly wrote an article 30 years ago objecting to women taking part in military combat. It was published in Proceedings, the magazine of the U.S. Naval Institute. Somehow it came to the attention of an employee at Boeing who found it sexist. The social media mob got riled up. Golightly apologized, of course. His views had changed in the intervening decades. But it didn't matter. He was forced to resign. Garrels conducted a presentation about purchasing art from more racially diverse artists by saying that he would still continue to buy art from white artists. This outraged the staff at the museum, who found his remarks smacking of white supremacy. Garrels apologized, of course. He should have been more sensitive to his colleagues' feelings, he said. But it didn't matter. He was forced to resign. Bennett published an opinion piece by Republican Senator Tom Cotton, arguing that if the Black Lives Matter-inspired riots continue to overwhelm local police, the federal government should send in the National Guard to restore order. New York Times staff claimed that Cotton's words were threatening. They personally felt endangered by them. They demanded Bennett's head. Bennett apologized, of course. He just thought the Times readers should be exposed to a different point of view. But it didn't matter. He was forced to resign. Former Times columnist Barry Weiss perfectly described the situation in her resignation letter shortly after Bennett's banishment. Twitter is not on the masthead of the New York Times, but Twitter has become its ultimate editor. This is the cancel culture that now pervades America. Yet, people on the left, the very people responsible for it, claim it doesn't exist. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez mocks those who fear its growing influence. "Odds are you're not actually canceled," she tweeted. "You're just being challenged, held accountable, or unliked." The representatives claim that this is merely accountability culture is common on the left. Don't believe it. Accountability means a duty to explain. Accountability involves confronting a person with their actions in a way that allows them to explain themselves or ask for forgiveness and otherwise continue the dialogue. The purpose of cancellation is very different. It seeks to bring all conversation to an end, to strike fear in the public so that no one else dares to speak up. That is cancellation, and it extends far beyond criticism. Cancellation involves social media mobs engaged in public shaming and the creation of blacklists. It seeks the destruction of the career and reputation of anyone who differs with a leftist position. The bullies, says social critic Douglas Murray, want to stop the rest of us talking or thinking. Virtually no one is immune. Not Kevin Hart, not J.K. Rowling, not Woodrow Wilson, not Drew Brees. Not the famous or the unknown, not the living or the dead. So many have been burned at the social media stake. One has to wonder if the mob is going to run out of victims. But this fire will not burn itself out. We have to stop it. How? First, if you ever find yourself in the cancel culture crosshairs, don't apologize to the mob. Apologize when you've done something wrong, not when you've exercised a constitutional right. And furthermore, your apology won't save you. It merely hands the bullies another victory. Stand firm. The storm will pass. The mob always moves on. Second, find allies among reasonable people, not necessarily people who vote the way you do or agree with you on every issue, just people who still believe in free speech and are committed to open dialogue. Third, the rest of us must only support institutions and businesses that value free expression. Money talks, which is why cancel culture is such a potent weapon. People and even big businesses are terrified of losing their incomes. Finally, defend targets of the mob, wherever they fall on the political spectrum. This is a free speech issue. It should unite liberals and conservatives against the left. The very soul of our republic depends on an open exchange of ideas. We must take on and defeat a cancel culture that would hold a free people hostage in their own society. I'm Paris Denard for Prager University.
This video was made possible by a generous donation from the Jaquish and Kenninger Foundation.
Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
I wouldn't be caught dead at a Donald Trump rally. I mean, come on. I've given money to Bernie. And yet there I was, February 2020, listening to the President of the United States address a crowd of 11,000 supporters. How in the world did that happen? Well, it all started with knitting. I knit to relax, to escape the drama of real life, but like almost everything nowadays, Even knitting has become political, to the point that only those with politically correct views are welcome in the online knitting forums. You think I'm kidding. I wish I were, but I'm not. The online knitting mob is real, and like all mobs, it's mean. That always made me uncomfortable, the insults and the name-calling, but I despised those knuckle-dragging Republicans as much as the next knitter, so despite my discomfort, I never gave it much thought. Truth is, I'm more interested in mastering a 3-needle bind-off than discussing immigration policy. But the knitting mob wouldn't drop it. It became a fixation, a daily litany of how horrible the president and his followers were. It started to bug me. All I wanted to do was knit. But then I began to wonder, could those Trump supporters, some of whom were literally my neighbors, really be as irredeemable as they said? I assumed the answer was yes, but I had to find out. And that is how I came to be at a rally for the president on the eve of the New Hampshire primary. My friends urged me not to go. They feared for my safety. One offered me her pepper spray for protection. I declined, but I won't pretend I wasn't nervous. I had no idea what to expect. I arrived 4 hours early. The line outside the arena was already a mile long. At first, I said nothing to those around me. I didn't want to provoke a scene, but then, as people are wont to do when stuck in a long line, we started to chat. First pleasantries, and then to more serious topics. And here's what I discovered. These people were so nice. No one harassed me, no one intimidated me, no one threatened me. In fact, when I mentioned I was a Democrat, their response was invariably a smile and welcome. These were decent, hardworking people from every walk of life. Electricians, lawyers, school teachers, small business owners, veterans. I might question some of the policies they supported. They were only too happy to debate me. But I couldn't question their good intentions or decency. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, more like a rock concert than a political event. People were dancing and having a fantastic time. They were actually enjoying themselves. As it happens, 2 days earlier, I had been in this same arena for a Democratic Party rally. The contrast was stark. Whereas the event for the president was full of optimism and enthusiasm, the Democrats' event was all doom and gloom. The country was racked with racism, sexism, and xenophobia. At the Trump event, the participants were bursting with national pride. Of course, the president touted his achievements, especially the economy, and attacked his opponents. But I was surprised how funny he was, and his energy never flagged. He seemed to be enjoying the event every bit as much as his audience. Here's something else that surprised me. While the crowd had obvious affection for the country's chief executive, there was nothing slavish or mindless about it. These people were not stupid, not brainwashed, and, as far as I could tell, not racist, sexist, or phobic anything. So, did going to a Trump rally change me? Well, my values are the same, but my perspective is different. I'll even say the experience made me a better person. I learned that the people who come to these rallies aren't there because they hate anybody. They're there because they love America. Somewhere between Pearl 1, Knit 2, I had lost that love. Now I have it again, and I'm grateful. The rally also reminded me that we are a people. Yes, we have fierce disagreements on how to solve our problems, but those who differ with us are not evil. Thinking that they are, that's the problem. That's what's tearing us apart. I refuse to add to the divisiveness any longer. I refuse to hate people I don't know simply because I don't like the way they vote. I invite you to join me. Let's make America civil again. If we can do that, we'll all win. I'm Carlin Burisenko, independent voter for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To keep PragerU videos free, please consider making a tax-deductible donation.
Okay, folks, we are back. I really hope you enjoyed those shows. We only have, 30 seconds here. So basically, what I'm saying is, we got enough bad news. We need to focus on the good news. Faith, hope, and love. God loves you. I love you. And may God be with you in everything you do. And always take stop, think. Just like the railroad tracks. Stop and look before you leap. Okay. So with that, again, thank you, everyone. Next month, we'll talk about the election results. But for now, good night, Danvers. And I thank you very much. Good night, and thanks again for watching the show.